Hello Mzansi, you are listening to Farmers Inside Track, proudly brought to you by Food for Mzansi. I am your host Patricia Tembo and welcome to episode 521. Today we're looking into breeding and how bull performance testing is a game changer for livestock farmers aiming to improve their herd's productivity. You already know this episode is set to be both informative and practical as we welcome Delight Kgari. She is a senior research technician for National Beef Recording, and she's also an animal scientist specializing in genetics and breeding from the Agricultural Research Council. Delight Kgari, welcome to Farmers Inside Track. We are so excited to have you on today's episode. I know that you are an animal researcher at ARC, the Agricultural Research Council, specializing in animal breeding, genetics, and genomics research. But for our listeners who might not know you, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and the work you're doing in the agri field.
I am Delight Kgari, and I hold a master's degree in animal science, specializing in animal breeding and genetics. And I am employed by the Agricultural Research Council under the National Beef or Milk Recording and Performance Testing Schemes. So in the recording scheme, we do services where the scheme registers livestock producers and provide them with data recording services, so that it can enable us to do performance testing. And we also conduct training and technology transfer in the beef improvement field so that we can enable optimal use of all the information that we record and be able to advise also on breeding strategies and managerial, all with the goal of improving beef production in South Africa and enable us to compete internationally as well. So I am currently stationed at Elsenburg Bull Test Center. This is where we do central performance testing of the bulls. In short, we call it phase C testing, whereby farmers, they bring their bulls and we keep them under standardized conditions so that we can record their performance over a certain period. They come and the first 28 days, it will be the adaptation period. Then they start the performance test, which goes on for 84 days. And then we record the performance of those within that period. And at the end of the test period, that's where then now we assess how the bulls have performed, and then they get branded. Just like writing it, when you are a student, you get taught, fed information, and then you write a test at the end of the term to know if you have passed. How did you pass? So is the case with the bull. We keep them under standardized conditions, feed them, and then at the end of the test, we do the measurements and also assess their data. And also independent inspectors come and inspect the bull. So then at the end of the test, the bulls pass individually. One that performed well will get a gold branding, followed by a silver branding and a bronze branding. And at the end of that, they also get a performance tested certificate as proof that they performed, and also the animal get branded. We also do this test on farm. If the farmers can't bring their bulls to us, go to farms, perform the test. We call it phase D, where it performed at the farms. However, the farms must meet certain standard and requirements, having resources that can enable them to perform this test on their farms, like your skills. So we do those kind of work.
Thank you, Delight, for that lovely introduction. And as you were speaking, you mentioned that you are stationed at Elsenburg, which is a lovely coincidence because I did my undergrad practicals there. So it's so nice to know that. So I suppose getting right into the topic and perhaps setting the context of livestock farmers, they know how important it is for their herd to be productive. And that's where bull performance plays a huge role, with the bull genetics being an important factor. But if you could just maybe explain to newer farmers, or maybe farmers who aren't quite clear on what bull performance refers to, just to, I suppose, set the grounds for this conversation.
Bull performance refers to how your bull performs in terms of the production goals that you would have set for yourself as a farmer, the things that you want to achieve. So you assess your bulls as to those production goals that you want to achieve. Can you be able to achieve them with the bulls that you have in your head? That's where bull selection comes into play, data recording comes into play, to record the performance of your bulls so that you can know, because a single bull can sire a lot of offsprings at the same time. So which means its genetics spread widely in your herd. So you need to know if that is going to be beneficial for your herd or not. So that is basically what the bull performance entails.
And then looking at the bull testing itself, maybe walk us through what traits farmers should be looking for when selecting a bull for breeding or even purchasing.
When selecting a bull for breeding, the most important traits that are those of economic importance in your herd, like your fertility or reproduction traits. Because now for any livestock enterprise, it starts at animals being fertile and being able to reproduce so that you can have that produced commodity that you want, either being milk or meat in terms of beef production. So you need to look at your fertility traits. Like for your bull, you will check your scrotal circumferences. How is it? Because it has been proven with research that the larger scrotal circumferences is linked to a good performance or early puberty in that bull's daughters. And also you can look at the structural soundness and body conformation of your bull. That's one of the other important traits, because now when you're going to use a bull for breeding purposes, you need it to be structurally sound, like the feet and the leg structure. Are they strong? Does it have the correct legs? And that can carry it for a good movement. So especially in natural service, we would have to mount the animals. They need to be able to move around and be structurally sound to be able to mount the animals. And also you need to also check the body condition of the bull as well. That's another trait that they need to look for, because you don't want a bull that is too thin or too fat that it can perform its duties. So you need it in with a middle body condition score that indicates good health and the ability for it to carry out its duties. And also you will look at growth traits, the birth weight, the weaning weight, that your average daily gain, how much feed does it require for it to gain 1 kg. You need those kind of traits. And also you check the production traits. Now where you come to your produced commodity, then you need to check the carcass quality of the offsprings of that bull that you are going to use, the eye muscle area, the fat thickness. Those are the carcass traits that you need to check for, because meat is your produced commodity.
I do have a question regarding to the second and third factors to look at. That's body conformation and body condition. What are the differences between those two?
Body conformation refers to the overall structure of the animal, checking the back, the pelvis, the frame, check if whether the frame supports efficient movement of the bull. And then body condition refers to the fat, how fat your bull is. Is it fat or is it thin? That's where you need to check fatness or the thinness of your bull. It refers to that.
That makes a lot of sense. And I assume now when you're looking at that, it differs between the different breeds that, a farmer is looking at. Maybe speak a little bit about the role that the breed that a farmer is looking at plays in bull performance and bull testing.
With breed, it will depend on what the climatic state of the environmental conditions of the farmer, because different breeds perform differently in different environments. So when you are at an environment where, the climatic conditions is too hot, the environment is harsh, you need the breed that is adaptable to such conditions. So you need to look at we're selecting indigenous breeds that have adapted to such harsh in climatic conditions. So for you to be able to choose the right breed, you need to check the environment that you are going to produce at.
Would you say then it is more important for a farmer to look at the breed that they are working with first before instead of making a decision?
Yes, definitely.
With the performance testing itself, how does a farmer go about it? Maybe explain, for example, where you are stationed at Alsenburg. Do farmers come in and have their bulls tested? Is it something a farmer can do alone? Maybe speak on what the process of that looks like.
With performance testing, as we are a recording scheme, so the farmers, we have members that are a member of our recording scheme where they participate in all the phases of our recording scheme, starting from recording data on their farm, where they will then send us data on a weekly basis for us to evaluate. So you need to record your births, the birth weight on your farm, all the way up to the last phases. And then we have what we call phase C, which then is the central performance test. So now here, farmers, even when you are not a member of the scheme, you can bring in your bulls to get performance tested at our station. However, they have to meet a certain requirements, like if you are farming with a specific breed, we accept bulls that meet a specific weight at the time of testing, so that we don't start with bulls that are not in good condition or bulls that are not in good health as well. They don't get accepted into the test. And also, when you want to bring the bulls, we will also send information. You can just inquire with our ARC officials. We have regional offices in Western Cape, Bloemfontein, Pretoria, so you can get information from each official, and then you fill in application form where you fill in your details of the farm and the bulls that you want to test. And then we evaluate the application. That's when then we will say, okay, it meets the standard requirements to participate in this performance test.
So it sounds like a farmer first has to meet the specific criteria before their cattle can be accepted for performance testing. And so within that criteria, is it specific certifications as well that is included besides the condition of the herd itself or the bull itself? Is there a specific certification that a farmer needs to bring in order to get the performance testing done?
Yes, that will be your health certificates, because now we need to know if it has been immunized for certain diseases. So we don't accept bulls that have not been immunized. So you need such certificates from your vet, and then you bring them in. So yes.
And then I assume also ownership of the herd, the bull itself, is also something that you look at. And then record keeping is something that you mentioned, and I know is quite important just in general farm management. How are farmers assisted in terms of record keeping? Because I know bull performance testing, a lot of data comes out of that. And maybe if you could speak a little bit more on the importance of record keeping from the farmer's side and also from experts like yourself as well, what that looks like and what falls under the responsibility of the farmer.
Record keeping is the core of it all. We can't do anything without the information. So we need a reliable and good information. So when the farmers are part of the scheme, we provide training on which records to record, which ones are important. For example, we need, when there is birth, you need to record the birth of your cow. Your cows need to have unique identification, where you give them unique ID numbers so that you can be able to differentiate. So they need to have identification. You need to record the mother and father of your animals. And also now you start recording now the performance from birth until it starts production. So we provide training in terms of record keeping for farmers. So we also hold farmers' days where we invite all the farmers that we can keep emphasizing and training them on which records to keep, and also emphasize on the importance of record keeping, because you cannot farm without knowing the direction of your herd. And for that to happen, you need to know the information.
How often should farmers evaluate the performance of their breeding bulls? How often is this something that farmers need to look at?
Once you have introduced a bull into your herd as a breeding bull, it is important to monitor and evaluate its performance as often as possible. So I would just say evaluate it at least 3 times per year, which will then be before the breeding season, during the breeding season, and after the breeding season. At the start of the breeding season, that's where you check your overall health of your bull, the body condition score, the ability to move, to be able to assess if it will be able to mount the animals. And then also during the breeding season, you check your bull, check it weekly if possible, to see if it's actively saving the cows that are on heat. Does it have any signs of injury or illness, or maybe check for loss of libido, because now that will be during the active season of breeding. And then also check again after the breeding season to evaluate the success. Did the cows conceive after your bull has serviced them? At the end of each year, you can now reveal the overall bull performance to check how did it perform in terms of the number and quality of calves that were born. And then that will help you assess and decide if whether you continue keeping this bull as a breeding bull or you cull it.
Once a farmer has done their review of the overall performance of a bull and they find that the performance is deteriorating, there are several factors that contribute to that. And I'm thinking of perhaps maybe age and illness. In terms of performance testing, something a farmer can pinpoint, like where exactly the issue is, whether it's an age issue or if it's illness or other factors. Maybe if you can speak a little bit about that and where a farmer does find that the bulls aren't performing to standard, what should be done?
When you are recording or when you are doing performance testing, you'll be able to pinpoint exactly where your bulls are suffering. But for example, when you do your evaluations, with age, you can be able to estimate that this bull is going to start deteriorating at a certain age. That's why we have replacement breeding strategies, so that you breed replacement bulls, so that when that time comes that your breeding bulls reach a certain age, you are already able to replace them with the bulls that you would have read already to take over the road. And in terms of sicknesses or injuries, those injuries, you can check them when you are evaluating your bulls. Like I have mentioned that you must evaluate them during and after. So when you are seeing that it got injured, when you have a replacement, you can temporarily put it while you isolate that one and you treat it, because some injuries are treatable. And also when you are, for example, part of the performance testing scheme, when you buy bulls that are performance tested, so like if it's not performing due to certain defects or fertility issues, those things you will be able to prevent, because you will not use it for breeding bulls, because you would have checked its history, because it's not something that just happens. So when you keep record of that, you will know before you can use it, your resources on rearing it for breeding purposes.
At Food for Mzansi, it's part of the vision of ARC not to leave farmers behind in terms of information and access to knowledge like this. So for farmers who don't have bull testing centers near them or even the means to get their herd to one, what options are available for those farmers? Thinking of communal farmers who would also like to improve the genetics of their herd, but maybe just don't have the access to bull performance testing. What is available for them?
For those farmers that don't have access to that, you can do recording yourself at home. You just take your notebook, write all this, because we provide information. We go to farms, communal areas as well, and do what I call Farmers Day. We also within the ARC, because like you said, the goal is not to leave anyone behind. So we have another scheme that is called Kaonafatso ya Dikgomo, which is KYD, that caters for and travels to all the rural areas, all the smallholder farmers. They offer them those kind of trainings on what to record and which tools to use to record. And they also travel with their scales to measure and weigh the bulls. So we have a specific scheme as well that assists farmers in educating them in the importance of record keeping and which records to have. And we also work hand in hand with extension officers and the government.
Staying on the KYD scheme, how can farmers access it, or where can they get more information on where and when the ARC has these programs running?
On the ARC website, there's information about such schemes, and also they can reach out to any ARC official or to ask for such information. But we also, however, try to publish or write information and publish it out for farmers to be able to know when and how to access this KYD. So we also have officials all over the country. In each provinces, there are KYD officials that cater for each province. So they do farmers' day information sessions to try and reach as many farmers as possible.
I think our farmers listening would definitely make use of the resources available from ARC. And then looking at purchasing bulls with the bull performance testing, how can a farmer ensure that they are purchasing a bull that has been properly tested? For example, when you go to an auction and there's a bull that a farmer is looking to purchase, what does a farmer look for in that situation at auctions?
Okay. As a farmer, when you go to the auction first, you need to do your homework first in your head. Go there with your goal. Is a specific goal in mind? What kind of bull are you looking for? You first need to define your production goals before you can even decide to go to an auction. Define your production goals. What are you looking to improve or balance within your head? Are you looking to improve growth rate, carcass quality, or are you looking to improve reproduction? Then write down what suits your needs. And then when you go there, you already know what you are looking for. So at the auction now, you can then look at those factors that you would have defined. Like, for example, in most formal auction, they provide a bull booklet, which then shows the estimated breeding values of the bulls that can tell you the expected performance of that bull's offspring. And also performance test results, what the key traits that you may be looking for, growth, fertility. Then you can be able to check that with what you need for your head. And then while you are going through that catalog, you highlight what need your goals and you rule out those that don't, so that you don't just buy before assessing what you need.
So it's important for a farmer to go to an auction already knowing the information that they need to look at and having their own information at hand.
Having your own requirements, having what you require at hand, that I'm going to look for a specific bull that has high performance in this aspect that I am looking to improve in my herd.
And within your experience and, with your work that you've done with farmers, what are common mistakes that you've seen when choosing bulls, performance testing, and maybe if you can speak on how to avoid those common mistakes that you've seen?
The most common ones are when farmers choose bulls just based on looks only, not based on the history of the bull's performance. They just select bulls just by looking at it. When you're looking at the bull, you can see that it looks big or muscular, then it attracts you, then you forget to check a performance, because a bull may look good but have underlying fertility issues or underlying poor genetics in terms of fertility defects or structural defects that you may not see within the eye. So you need to check its track record before you can just select it based on it being attractive to the eye. And also physically inspect their feet, their legs, those hidden things like your scrotum before you can just choose it based on it looks muscular. That's what in the olden days the farmers used to do. And going back to what I was mentioning, that not considering the head's need, like just buying a bull because it's a good bull at auction. When they are talking about it, you hear that this is a good bull, it has good EPVs, but it doesn't match your production, the environment that you are going to use that bull at. So that can be a costly mistake because it can be a good bull for a specific farm, but not for you. So you need to choose a bull that fit your production goal and your climate system and what are your market goals as well.
Just thinking of not to judge a book by its cover applies to
yes.
looking at bulls as well.
Also, when they choose based on price alone, like going for the cheapest bull at the auction, or going there and being like, I came back with 4 bulls because they were so cheap. But then when you can buy 2 bulls that will perform way better than all the 4 bulls combined. So this may cost you more in the long term in terms of a poor calf performance. So you must avoid just by choosing through price alone. See a bull as a long-term investment. Balance your cost with genetic potential and function.
To close off this episode, is there anything else that you maybe would like to touch on that we haven't with regards to bull performance testing?
Just as a concluding statement, I would just like to emphasize that record keeping is the key to any livestock production. You need to know where you start, where you are heading to, define your goals, record your data so that you can assess the performance. And when it comes to bulls, the best bulls are those that match your system, that improve your head and stay sound and fertile over time. The key takeaway is record keeping.
Thank you so much, Delight, for this expertise that you've shared. And I don't know if there's ways for farmers to learn more on this specific topic, if there is resources that you have or ways to contact you.
We have an ARC beef bulletin that we publish annually. So the farmers can get that. It's accessible online. And also my email address is kgari@arc.agric.za. So for farmers who are listening and they may want more information on how to join the scheme or how to get their bulls performance tested, they can contact me via email or via cell phone number, which is 083-6578-578. The farmers can reach out to us anytime. We will assist where we can.
Thank you so much to Delight Kgari, who is a senior research technician for National Beef Recording, and she's also an animal scientist specializing in genetics and breeding from the Agricultural Research Council. If you'd like to know more about this topic, you can visit www.foodformzansi.co.za. And that brings us to the end of this episode. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. From me, Patricia Tembo, our technical producer, Megan van der Vent, and the rest of #Team Food for Mzansi, thank you for listening.